Anyway, to dive into this, so we have 4 different solutions here. We have Enrollment SSO, Platform SSO, Extensible SSO, and Addigy Identity. Definitely keep track of how many times I say SSO here. But to go on to the next slide here. So, with Enrollment SSO, the best way to think about this is almost your one-time gate into automated device enrollment, where it sits at the intersection of, that device management page and the terms and conditions that you can set through Addigy, and then right after you're met with a wonderful login screen, and basically, what this allows. IT teams and organizations to do is to actually secure their fleet. That way, they can ensure that no one else is actually signing in to these devices, especially if you're shipping them off to employees or other remote locations, so that those devices don't get enrolled into Addigy, and it's specific individuals that are authenticating in and getting them set up. That way, they don't have access to company resources. So that's the best way to think about Enrollment SSO. And just to go on to the next page, I'm just high level touching on these solutions. By the way, if you notice in the corner, we do have setup guides. And we can obviously walk you through these individual solutions, but at the very end, we'll walk you through something that we've actually built that will help you even further. Um, but so with Enrollment SSO, here's an example where it's supported by iPhone, iPad, Mac. This is important just because, the login windows on mobile devices, not every, vendor has this ability. So this is awesome because you can also take it one step further with end user directory syncing for those who are existing Addigy customers. If you haven't taken a look at that, that's our SCIM server, and I'll dive in more later with that. But to go into our next solution, we do have Platform SSO as well. This is actually Apple's native login solution. It looks just like the native login window. You can authenticate through file vaults, various states. And then it is only supported on Mac. And they did recently add, within the last year, actually, Setup Assistant, which is huge. That was, I know, a major blocker for some folks in adopting Platform SSO. This does show up at the login window, like I said, but it also does authenticate you through native apps and browsers. And today, Entra and Okta are the only two that support this natively. There is quite a few restrictions on this solution here. So hardware, OS, how old is your entire fleet, and then also what are the type of users that are actually using this. This is one, I would say, a thing to note here is that this is still maturing. So it is a newer solution. So just keep in mind. I highly recommend testing this, especially if you're in Addigy. Set up a separate policy. Don't do it in a production environment, and see how your profiles and the Platform SSO setup is directly going to impact that end user. One small change in the Extensible SSO profile can be drastic. Just from personal experience, I've even locked myself out. So that was early days, but so just caution, and obviously reach out to Addigy and we can absolutely help you. Going on to our a video here. So this is actually showing the existing experience that most folks are used to. This is actually the password syncing solution already at the desktop. So if this device is already run through ADE, this is actually the experience they would see. They would see that native notification registration option, and then that prompt that you saw running through. You're then running through MFA. And then from there, once it's authenticated, it is going to prompt to sync that password, and it is binding the account to the local Mac account. So from there, you can see a successful state. This is obviously the happy path. And one awesome thing that they've added is you can actually see that it's successfully registered via that green dot. So definitely nice for troubleshooting there. That was just a sneak peek. I'll show you another setup of Platform SSO a little later as to what's coming. Um, Now, Extensible SSO. Extensible SSO is the overall framework that Platform SSO is actually built on top of. But what's nice about Extensible SSO is it's very flexible. So you could implement this in a way where if you just wanted to have your users sign into apps and websites rather than having it at the login window, you could do that. So I think this is definitely a nice entry level way to start getting your feet wet with Extensible SSO, Apple's framework here, and then eventually, move to Platform SSO. It is obviously like, the same framework, but you do have far more control. Like I said, you want to be careful with end users. It will, on the Platform SSO side, it can keep prompting the end user if you're not careful. So just keep that in mind. This one is supported by Mac, iPhone, and iPad. And going on to the next solution, we have good old trusty Addigy Identity that has been around for a while. So Addigy Identity is our custom login window. It was recently redone, completely revamped, redesigned. So it does look like a Swift native application. And it does have the just-in-time user creation, that IDP password sync, the MFA options, also the emergency offline, and then the overall, I would say it is a lot faster to set up, just being fully transparent. Obviously, I'm telling you this just because also, like, we don't charge for any of these solutions here. So whatever one is best for you is honestly the one that we would want you to go with. So couple things to note with Addigy Identity. If you're using any sort of captive portals or public Wi-Fi networks, this is definitely not the recommended solution. And then also, if you are wanting Touch ID at the login window, the best one for that is actually Platform SSO. That's just because of the technical restrictions that custom login windows have versus something that's built in and native. And this one is supported on macOS only. And just going to the next screen here, and this is just a demo of our redesigned Addigy Identity. This has already been out for a while, so those of you who are currently using it, this will look familiar. For those of you who haven't revisited it, definitely recommend taking a look. But like I said earlier, pick whichever one is best for you. I just recommend that you start testing it out. Definitely don't deploy it out to your production environment.